Fafo and Friends. I think we should call it that now. I think that's good. Fafo. He was on Fafo and Friends, and this is the root. I haven't watched this, but this seems to be in relation to this. This is a short little clip. We'll play the other one in a minute. Comer, he's a Kentucky congressman, so I apologize as a former dyed-in-the-wool Kentuckian. I don't know what the fuck happened. There's a chance he and I might have even gone to the same high school if I'd have stayed there. That said, this is Shapley. Hunter got $8.3 million from 3 foreign firms. Nobody disputes that he was making money overseas. He was an investor and he worked with an investment team. So what? The question is, what did Joe Biden do in exchange for that money? Because you can't have a quid pro quo without that fucking quo. And so this is an issue I keep bringing up. And I guess Steve Doocy has the same problem. Kilmeade does not have this problem. Kilmeade
Mr. Shapley was talking about tax evasion, especially regarding Hunter Biden. You just mentioned 9 members of the Biden family. Right. You've got bank records. It looks like they've taken in excess of $20 million from foreign sources. I heard you yesterday refer to them as a crime family.
Okay. Comer at this point should, after the Brett Baer interview, recognize that he is being gently and some might even say lovingly walked towards a rake while being told to take giant steps.
And this was organized crime. So make it easy for us. What was the crime?
Well, the crime is trading policy for money.
Which policy?
There you go. That is the crime. There it is. What? Trading policy for money. Agree. That it's a terrible thing when politicians do that. What would that policy be? What policy did Joe Biden engage in either during the Obama-Biden administration that he wasn't taking direct clues from Obama about? So apparently he was taking payments for what Obama was going to do automatically, which sounds more like he's scamming criminals, which I can't hold him at fault for if that's indeed what they're arguing. But then, of course, what now? What's he doing right now? Or what did he promise to do after he was never going to run again for that money? What was it? What was the policy, especially in 2017 when he's no longer in office and Trump is president? What was, and you want to know, I want to know, here it comes.
Policy.
Well, we're going to get it.
Wait, hold on.
Policy for money.
Which policy?
Well, we're going to get into that. I mean, look, Joe Biden has, on day one, he changed our energy policy in America that put China first and America last. He went.
How? How did our energy policy put China fucking first? We didn't start buying coal from them. There is literally no correlation between American energy policy, especially towards like us trying to be greener in what we do and being safer in our drilling and especially in our movement towards natural gas and renewables that benefits China ultimately. Other than he's like, we signed on to the Paris Accord and we're not making China clean up their act because we fucking can't.
Went in on day one and ended the China Initiative, which was an investigation at all our public universities of a very organized Chinese spy ring where.
Okay, so he ended the China Initiative. That's the thing. So the Chinese police stations that were operating in the U.S. during the Trump administration that the Biden administration discovered and have shut down. Which one is more direct? The other one was just like investigating Chinese people or anybody who with a Chinese fucking name. So it's unconstitutional is the problem with that one. That's why Trump didn't give a fuck. But if you do the China Initiative, you can arguably look like you're doing something when you're officially not looking into the true danger.
China was sending students to universities to steal our research and development.
So you're saying because members of the Hunter Biden family and the extended Joe Biden family got money through various foreign entities, including things from China, that the president is compromised. you say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How's he compromised?
He's compromised because he's taken so much money from China. When you go in and you end the China initiative, which every university president, even the most liberal university president, said is a problem, these Chinese students are coming over here.
Yeah, they didn't say that. The most liberal university presidents are not saying these Chinese students are coming over here.
You go in a research lab in any university, whether it's in Kentucky or in an Ivy League school, and there are Chinese students in there.
Again, the most liberal university presidents were clamoring. Obviously, Biden was going against what they were saying because he didn't have them rounding up Chinese students who were studying science in the United States, and so they're in research labs.
He ended that because they said that was racial profiling. That was just.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Because you're only going after them because they are Chinese students. It's overly broad and has no bearing on whether or not you're actually looking for the real spies. You're just, what I guess, effectively planning on rounding up or kicking out any Chinese student who's trying to study over here, who very well, by the way, many of them female, many of them trying to stay here, to get out, to find a way to extract themselves from China. But yeah, they said it was all racist and shit. It is.
Discrimination. But the university presidents, even the most liberal ones, wanted that. They ended that. That's an example of a policy decision.
What else have you found? Because the panel is at.
Yeah. What else? That was it. That was the whole. So the end of it is the China initiative. That's primarily. So they were all right. And again, they ended a racist policy by the Trump administration that, again, was window dressing it, looking at a legit problem while just being racist and gross. Okay, so. The Justice Department said Wednesday that it is scrapping its China initiative, a program that it launched under the Trump administration to counter Beijing's theft of American intellectual property, but increasingly came under criticism from civil rights groups that say it created a climate of fear among Asian Americans. The decision to end the program comes after a months-long review ordered by the new head of the National Security Division, Assistant Attorney General Matthew Olson. While I remain focused on the evolving significant threat that the government of China poses, I've concluded that this initiative is not the right approach, Olson said in a speech Wednesday at George Mason University. Instead, he said, the current threat landscape, which includes Russia, Iran, North Korea, in addition to China, demands a broader approach. The Justice Department will continue to combat Chinese espionage and cyber threats. The department announced the China initiative in 2018 to combat what officials said at the time, and still say, is the Chinese government's relentless campaign to steal U.S. secrets, technology, and cutting-edge research. The scale of Beijing's efforts, American officials say, and stop saying it, Biden didn't tell them to stop picking on China, is staggering. Last month, FBI Director Christopher Wray said the Bureau has more than 2,000 China-related cases. I would have thought that Biden would have shut those down. They're weaponizing the government. Couldn't they just take all those people off that case and put them on Trump? It opens a new China-related case every 12 hours. This is during the Biden administration. There is just no country that presents a broader threat to our ideas and our innovation and our economic security than China, Wray said in a speech at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Olson said he agrees with that assessment, and he vowed that the Justice Department will continue to combat Chinese espionage and cyber threats, just without the China Initiative banner. Also, by the way, that's how you let them know you're watching. That name itself, again, while it's just window dressing, also makes everybody tighten up their security if they are stealing something. Make no mistake, we will be relentless in defending our country from China, he said. The department will continue to prioritize and aggressively counter the actions of the PRC government that harm our people and our institutions. But he also said the department needed to be responsive to concerns raised by civil rights groups, academics, and scientists about what they say are negative ripple effects caused by the initiative. Civil rights groups, for example, said the department's effort amounted to racial profiling against Asian Americans. The Biden administration didn't say this. The Biden administration, you could argue, agreed with it, But the DOJ responded to these groups by doing their investigation. Okay. They also say it helped fuel a narrative of intolerance and bias against Asian Americans at a time when attacks and hate crimes targeting Asians in the U.S. were already skyrocketing. Anything that creates the impression that the Department of Justice applies different standards based on race or ethnicity harms the department and our efforts, and it harms the public, Olson said. I do believe the China initiative was driven by genuine national security concerns, but I'm also mindful that the department must maintain the trust of the people whom we serve. Some raised concerns about racial profiling. Academics and scientists, meanwhile, expressed similar concerns about racial profiling, while also raising alarms about grant fraud cases brought under China Initiative's umbrella. In those prosecutions, the department has charged scientists and researchers for failing to disclose ties to China on their grant applications. We have heard that continued, by the way. They just don't call it the China Initiative. We have heard that these prosecutions and the public narrative they create can lead to a chilling atmosphere for scientists and scholars that damages the scientific enterprise in this country, Olson said. Several of the department's grant fraud cases ultimately fell apart, including one recently against MIT scientist Gang Chen, but prosecutors also have notable wins, such as the conviction of Harvard professor Charles Lieber. Going forward, Olson said the department will change its approach to grant fraud cases. He said prosecutors will look to potentially taking civil or administrative actions instead of pursuing criminal prosecutions. We're going to work closely with the FBI to assess the evidence of intent as well as the materiality and the nexus of these cases to our national and economic security. And those factors are going to guide our decisions. Olson signaled several outstanding grant fraud prosecutions brought in the initiative, asked whether the new approach will be applied retroactively to these cases. He said they would not. We're comfortable with where those cases are, and we continue to stand behind them. So the cases they were already working on when this happened, they're going to continue going after them criminally. Today's announcement is an important step forward. Today's announcement is an important step forward, but much more needs to be done to ensure that all cases being prosecuted are based solely on evidence and not on perception, said Zheng Yu Huang, president of the Committee of 100, organization of prominent Chinese Americans. Again, these are Chinese Americans. Yeah. So the China initiative being shut down, again, this is another one of those situations where Trump wanted a big, shiny name to be put on his stuff to make it look like he's doing something when he actually is not. Now, let's go back to James Comer, who is, again, in the process of letting down every Republican in the House and is almost single-handedly why Jim Jordan has stopped talking in public the last few days.
We welcome in studio for the first time, House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer.
You might want to hold your applause, ladies and gentlemen. Also, how long before Sean Hannity just goes straight fucking Jerry Springer?
Great to see you. How are you?
Great.
First, I gotta give you a lot of applause because you have been unrelenting in your pursuit. It's not been easy to get those suspicious activity reports. It's not been easy to get the FBI director to give you the 1023 form. It's not been easy to get these whistleblowers.
And yet, you've worked so hard for nothing.
Convince them, victims of retribution, to come talk to your committee and others.
Victims of retribution? What do you mean the whistleblowers that still have their jobs and weren't fired, who were covered under whistleblower protection, and who were the retribution, I think, according to Sean Hannity, insofar as what we've seen, is that they were pulled off a case and put on something else that was worth a lot more money to the government, by the way, billion-dollar cases as opposed to million-dollar cases. They were pulled off those cases and put someplace else when they would have rather just gone after Biden's son, even though it was pretty much buttoned down.
Yeah. Well, and remember with the suspicious activity reports, one reason they blocked us early on, Sean, they said, well, there's nothing to see here. You won't.
Right. There isn't.
Find anything. Well, here's what we found when we gained access to the suspicious activity reports on the Bidens. We found that the president did have transactions that went to his family members while he was vice president. That was something the media.
No. The vice president did not have transactions that went to his family members. His family members had transactions. Now, do Jared and Ivanka and Don and Eric. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, said never happened. They always said the wire transfers happened after he left office. We proved that they happened while he was vice president.
No, No, the idea that any of the money went to Joe himself, even the 10% for the big guy horseshit, they haven't buttoned that down at all. But even the rest of this stuff, the allegations happened in 2017. Again, no longer vice president, not intending to run for office ever again, effectively retired. So again, what the fuck? Who buys a politician who's that old and not going to be involved anymore? Especially when the opposition that won was so antithetical. What do you think, he's going to have the ear of the Trump administration in 2017?
And we prove that 9 Biden family members were a part of the influence peddling scheme, not just the president.
No, he didn't. Again, what's the influence? What's the policy? What was the change? What happened? What did Biden do when he got in office in exchange for this? And certainly, what kind of influence was he still peddling in 2017?
President's son and his
And they
brother.
were funneling this money through LLCs.
They were funneling through.
You mean like Trump's 500 LLCs? It's fucking Delaware. Everybody has an LLC.
LLCs. We knew about several LLCs, but when we got access to Treasury, we found more LLCs. So we found more shell accounts, more bank accounts, and more Bidens who were involved in the influence peddling scheme. Now, today,
Again, what kind of influence? What kind of peddling? You can't just say influence peddling. You have to go, yeah, I need my quid and I need my pro and I need my quo.
we've requested more information. We're going to request more suspicious activity reports relating
Because we have all these suspicious activity reports. And the one thing about them is there's some activity and none of it is really suspicious, unfortunately. And
to Burisma.
Now, I read
wait, excuse me.
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
For the record, no, they don't. But that's how we're going to pronounce it around here.
today that Burisma money was funneled to China and then returned to the Bidens in the form of, quote, loans.
No. What the fuck are you not? No, you didn't learn that. What are you talking about? The loan part was because of I think a Bank of Cyprus. And didn't Wilbur Ross run the fucking Bank of Cyprus?
Is that to avoid taxes? Is that a forgivable loan with no?
Also, if the money comes from Burisma, who gives a fuck where it goes before it gets to you? Does the money become less from Burisma the number of places it bounces through? Or is that just how they cover shit because they have deals with maybe, just maybe, and this might be a little bit crazy, that China buys a lot of oil and gas and has deals with companies in Kazakhstan and Russia and Ukraine at the time.
No interest, like we had heard might have happened with $5 million. Do we know anything about that?
All we
Yeah, tell us. So everything Sean said right there is a gibberish muddle of 5 different maybe coulda stories all thrown together in some sort of crime salad. So Comer will clean it up, though, I'm sure.
Interest, like we had heard might have happened with $5 million. Do we know anything about that?
all we know is in the Form 1020, the FBI Form 1020, the
1020 or 1023?
1023.
Yeah, 1023, whatever works.
Okay.
The oligarch bragged that investigators, it would take 10 years to find all the different transactions that they
Which oligarch would that be? The guy who's been missing since the Trump administration? The guy who was prosecuted and had to flee Ukraine because the Shokin, the guy that Biden insisted must be fired, wouldn't go after him. Then the guy that came in after him, who replaced him, did go after him. And during that time, he fled the country. That guy, I'm just clarifying.
that they used to launder the money to the Bidens. So we think they used through loans. We think they transferred through other countries. We think they transferred through stocks. We requested stock accounts in addition to bank accounts. So we're going through this, but we also have information that would lead us to believe there's information in suspicious activity reports where banks realized what was going on. They are pretty quick to catch money laundering. And that
No, they fucking aren't, especially the Bank of Cyprus. And by the way, do Deutsche Bank and Trump accounts, please, right now. Just go on about that. Tell me all about how they know about money laundering. Secondly, where are you? Okay, it's just so aggravatingly dumb. Okay, after 9/11, anything over $10,000 qualified for a suspicious activity report. Anything. There's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of them all the fucking time. And if you don't believe me, try to put money down on a house and transfer money so that you and your spouse or your relatives or whatever, if your parents give you money or somebody gifts you some money or they put it all in one big fell swoop, everybody in that group that goes, we're going to finally get these kids a house now that they're married, all of them are going to have a suspicious activity report. All of them are going to have an SAR on file because you tried to buy a house. Moving that amount of money around, that's it. If you try to just move your money from like other bank accounts into one account before you write a check for your down payment, that was one of the reasons why in 2008, part of what dragged some of the financial crash, one of the tipping points, one of the things that was so a little bit of sand in the fucking engine during that process that mucked with everybody buying houses on houses and rolling the costs and using the equity in a house you don't fully own to buy another house and all that kind of shit. In there with it was the SARs at that time, the suspicious activity reports, were slowing the transfer. There was a delay of hours, sometimes 24 hours, sometimes 2 days. And there was so much like quick moving real estate cash running around that it jagged it all up. That was part of the reason for it hitting its tipping point was the SAR.
That's what all the banks did in the previous suspicious activity reports. They detected
But these are
money
LLCs
laundering.
that were not legitimate businesses.
Right.
They
And
were
the
there to
banks knew
receive
that,
money and redistribute money.
Absolutely.
Fair statement?
And when you set up a bunch of shell companies for the sole purpose of laundering money, that's called racketeering. The banks knew.
No, it isn't. And also, like, money laundering is just money laundering. Racketeering involves a lot of other shit. You're just involving other people. And again, this is him attempting to use big crime words that he saw in a movie or a TV show starring Dennis Farina at some point, because God love him. I mean, obviously not Snatch, but anything else.
Exactly what the Bidens were doing. That's why they filed so many suspicious activity reports against the Bidens. What we're requesting now are suspicious.
Now, real quick, how many SARs were filed against Trump and his associates and his family members during the same time period? How many? I mean, besides the payment to Stormy Daniels and, Karen McDougal or whatever. And whatever, the hush money / abortion funds that he doled out. Same time. We don't even have to go back to the 90s. Let's just stick around the same zone that this asshole is talking about. Let's talk about from when Biden becomes vice president to 2017. Same window. How many SARs were filed around the Trump organization or Trump properties or Trump LLCs during that time? What do you think the over-under is that they're 50 to 100 times more of them? What do you think?
Suspicious activity reports relating to anyone that was involved in Burisma, because we believe this will help us track the $10 million that the oligarch said he sent to both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
So you're the chairman of the very powerful and important House Government
Very powerful and important.
Reform Oversight Committee. Now, what do you make of these WhatsApp messages? The Bidens are the best I know at doing exactly what the chairman wants from this partnership. Now, that's a message from Hunter to this Chinese energy company chairman that he's talking about. And they ended up.
By the way, the CEFC, they keep going to the CEFC thing, and I've brought this up a bunch of times or whatever, but what they keep leaving out of this is that Hunter Biden was insisting that if CEFC wants to do business in the United States and get involved in pipelines or whatever the fuck they were trying to do, that was the part of the deal, that he as an investment person was being involved in with Rosemont Seneca or without, or with James Biden or without. That part's a little murkier because it never actually happened. That if they do that, if the Chinese government has to do that, they have to set up a U.S. subsidiary. They have to file and create a company in the United States that it falls under U.S. law. If they can't do that, they're wasting everybody's time. And he got pissed at one point. He's like, this turned out to be bullshit. These guys are fucking scamming us. This is flim flam from more than likely Chinese government forces trying to wiggle their way into this stuff. They never had an intent of going through with a legit business deal. This guy's full of shit. And that's why it fell apart. The CEFC deal never actually occurred. And the reason it never occurred is because those guys wouldn't pony up and form that U.S. company that would fall under U.S. regulatory rule. And they couldn't do business until that happened. And the money that supposedly he got from Robert Wagner was because they were like, put some money in an account before we even start this horse shit. And if they don't go through with it, we all get a little bit of money, so we're not dicking around with these assholes. And then the rest of the time he's playing Wolf of Wall Street, yelling at people.
Getting, a week after that WhatsApp exchange, $5 million?
Less than a week. It shows that this president's compromised. That's why we're investing.
Wait a minute. The $5 million wasn't from CEFC. Now they're just mashing it all together. The $5 million was allegedly from Burisma.
Investigating Joe Biden. We believe there's a reason that his family's received millions and millions of dollars from our adversaries, including China. We believe that he's compromised, and we believe that answer.
What do you then I think, okay, that's cool. Look into that. Knock yourself the fuck out. But while you're at it, look at Trump's China account where he got $17 million in one evening and took $15 million in cash out the same day. After he dropped TPP, which China was against.
Some of the questions as to why he has energy policy that puts America last and China first.
How does it put China first? I guess the idea is that because green energy and China's bullshitting about their green energy. I think that he thinks that's the Paris Accord. So I guess they had to bribe the Bidens to get in on the Paris Accord and stick to it, even though the Obama administration had put it together and Trump had gotten us out of it, but we just get back into it. Did they bribe the French and the British and the Belgians and the EU leaders and them too? To what? Look the other way as China fakes its green energy revolution?
This family's taken too much money from too many of our adversaries around the world for Joe Biden.
Romania is an adversary now, by the way, just in case. I think it's because they arrested Andrew Tate.
Not to have to repay them in the form of bad policy.
Okay, we have six.
Which would be what? What would be the bad policy? And again, that's enough? Just bad policy? Well, shit. Trump would have been a way cheaper date.
6 whistleblowers going before the House Ways and Means Committee, and you're in touch with all of this.
Absolutely.
Okay. What do you make of this other WhatsApp message? I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. He's like doing, I want to say, as Vito Corleone, that...
By the way, if you'll recall, when Schiff spoke about what Trump said on the Zelensky call and paraphrased what he said as a gangster, he's doing exactly what Schiff did. Sean Hannity right now is doing exactly what Trump says Schiff lied about him doing. This is just, and I don't have a problem with him doing this. This is just shtick. But that's exactly what Trump said. Like that constituted Schiff lying about him.
If this is not resolved tonight, I will do what I have to do.
Yeah.
And he goes on and he says, and Z, if I get a call or text from anyone other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me, Joe Biden, and every
2017,
every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my direction. I am waiting.
Well, yeah, I gotta say, does Hunter Biden sound like he's taking shit from the Chinese company at that point? It seems like the opposite, right? It's interesting because it's the first time Hannity has read that out loud and he's kind of made that point about it. But it makes it look like Hunter is the one exerting influence over CEFC and the people involved in it. Like, don't you fuck with me. Like, he's just being a tough businessman in this situation, which doesn't point to somebody who's being paid for influence. unless the influence has already happened, but the problem is in the timeline, it can't yet. They don't live up to that side of the deal. Apparently, it's the Bidens that are supposed to be hat in hand. They're supposed to be the one with their palm out.
I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Well, that would be a direct implication of Pops, who's also implicated in the laptop, is given half his income to.
Well,
No, he had to give us half his income because he was an addict and his parents were holding it for him. The other thing is, again, if he's giving him 50-50, then how come Hunter's, what bag man gets 50-50?
we're going to see this play out in the House Oversight Committee.
We totally are. But that is absolutely true. We are totally going to see this play out.
Is that Joe Biden set up all of these deals initially? He was not only did he know about them, he was a central figure in them. There's no way China's going to send $5 million to Hunter Biden because he's.
Are you fucking kidding me? Especially in 2017 dollars, the Chinese were throwing millions everywhere. Since when is $5 million a lot of money? I'm dead serious. This is seed money for a small energy project. They might have had the idea that they would have deeper hooks later and bigger payouts later, but I thought he walked out of there with $1 billion. Remember, that was the original narrative. Wait, hold on one second. I have to, real quick. Let's see. Trump. Whoops, hold on. Yeah. So, talking about $5 million, right? That's the amount.
Hunter.
Hold on. Here we go. So let's. He's looking good too. He's looking real good. Hunter.
I just want to tell you, I couldn't be happier for you and your family. And I know you don't know anything about energy, and I know it's an energy company, but I think they made a great deal, Hunter. And then they fly to China.
China.
And I'm dealing with people right now. They're tough as hell, those Chinese negotiators. And Hunter, who's not too smart.
Hunter, who is not too smart.
He goes in, he has a meeting, he walks out in his fund with $1.5 billion, with a B, $1.5 billion.
Boo! Yeah, $1.5 billion. That's the story. We have come from $1.5 billion that he had one meeting and walked out with $1.5 billion. That's pretty direct. If you could find the quo in that, the quid pro part should be handled. That's your argument, and you have some way of showing that he had one meeting and walked out with $1.5 billion. Fan-fucking-tastic. Show it. I mean, talk about a suspicious activity report. Shit. Go, that's a lot. And this is how much it's dwindled. This amount of money has dwindled like Trump's crowd size. Only worse, because Trump's now in front of a couple hundred people instead of even 1,000 or so. And the idea is that we've gone from he had one meeting, walked in, walked out with $1.5 billion, to he got somewhere between $2 and $10 million, but it's been funneled through a bunch of accounts, and I asked to pay tax on some of it, so about 8.6 million of it, and then this little bit went here, and then 10% of it, which would be again $900,000 on this initial payment that they're alleging, went to the quote big guy, which never happened. And Bob Alinsky says this, and all these guys, that's written in there, but it never actually occurred, and was presented by someone else. But whatever. The idea is like, maybe we'll give 10% to your dad, because he's no longer in office. But even that part, which I don't give you, is a real email at all. But let's say, even if it was, it's after he's out of office and he's not going to run again. And what exactly policy is he buying? But even that, the $900,000 from this pissant little deal is a big fucking drop off from 1.5 billion, is it not?
Threatened them in a text message. It's because Joe Biden had met with them first, and he had promised them things. He'd either already delivered and wanted the payment, or he was going to deliver.
Which would be what? If he already delivered, because, and that's the reason he's saying that is because this is in 2017. But if he already delivered, what did he deliver? And if he's going to deliver, how do they presume he is going to do this now that he is no longer in office? What leverage do they think he would have with the Trump administration or the new Republican leadership under Trump at all? What phone calls can he actually make that would make anything fucking happen after he's out of office at that point? Where is it? What's the quo? Bring it.
And the whole business model that China was using the Bidens for was to be able to take Chinese money and start buying as many industries and as many businesses in America as they could, because there were barriers to entry.
Hunter had no experience in energy.
He didn't have to have any. They were an investment group. All they had to do was make sure the money was being spent where it was supposed to be spent. That's not the fucking point. You don't think Trump can read a blueprint, do you? Really?
No, none. And it wasn't just energy. It was anything they could invest.
Also, he's got hats on the fucking table so he can throw it at him. Hannity's throwing hats into the crowd right now. What kind of Jerry Springer horse shit is this?
Because there are barriers to entry for China. We don't want China taking over important industries in America.
We don't want China taking over. Let's see, Trump. There we go. Is this, let's see, how like. This is Donald Trump. This for the who's at home, signing the trade deal with China, and he. Let's see if I can shrink this down a little bit. This would allegedly go on to be, the phase one of a three-phase deal that never happened, that China also never lived up to. They never followed up with all this, but this is during a period when Americans were in food lines because of COVID, that they would buy over the, let's see if he says something. Hold on. I think he just talks about this and then there you go. Look at this. Palm, oh yeah, there you go. Palm up, everything. Even did one of his like jizz squirts on his face. Okay, let me hold a look up poo poo. Let's stand next to each other so we can never dodge this ever again. There he is. That would be the Chinese trade deal that three phase. This is phase one, where the Chinese would agree to buy $30 billion worth of American goods to make up for, allegedly, them not getting 10 cents or some shit, whatever. They ultimately would only buy about $11 billion worth of beef, pork, corn, and soybeans because they need them. China buys 80% of its food from outside the country. He was trying to make up for this trade deficit that we had with China because they weren't buying nearly as much stuff from us as we were buying from them because we buy their stuff wholesale and sell it retail to the rest of the world, or we have things made there so the goods themselves show up as a trade deficit because they're whole goods when they leave the country, but they have an American label on them or somebody like, I don't know, like a MAGA hat, for example. Just such an asshole. So, where we go? Where we go? What's this? Nope, that was the one. Where we go? Yeah, so that's him claiming that Hunter got 1.5 billion from China after one meeting. Meanwhile, I guess it took him a long fucking time to work his way through just getting $10 billion of goods bought that they were gonna buy anyways for a deal they never were gonna follow through on. Like, I don't understand how people actually buy this Trump knew what he was doing horse shit, but okay. So, back to this dickhead. We're almost done.
They were using the Bidens to navigate
what did
the
the chairman
bureaucracy.
expect from the Bidens?
Sorry, they were using the Bidens to navigate
Important
what?
industries in America. They were using the Bidens to navigate
what did
the
the chairman
bureaucracy.
expect from the Bidens?
What the fuck?
Important industries in America. They were using the Bidens to navigate
what did
the
the chairman
bureaucracy.
expect from the Bidens?
Oh, he just bails on whatever it is. The trade something? Sanctions, maybe? Is that what he was saying? How? Whatever.
I'm sorry?
What did the chairman that they're kissing the ass of want from the Bidens?
They expected complete loyalty, and they expected them to deliver on the money that they had paid them. They want.
All right. Yeah. So the other half of the WhatsApp message, he's just going to that's him spackling the this would be the corruption of the gaps, for what atheists call the God of the gaps, where religious people just anything you can't explain, you just spackle God in the hole and call it a day. This would be corruption of the gaps.
Access to the government at the highest levels.
Sure.
How would you have access to the government at the highest levels when you're talking to the vice president's son a year after he's left office and isn't planning to run again? What did anybody think back to the beginning of the primary when Biden entered? Was there anybody that was like, Joe Biden's the shoo-in? If that motherfucker even steps up, he's in. Besides me. Because I was the one who was like, it's going to be Joe and it's going to be Kamala and they're going to win and it's going to be by this much. And I was right. You're welcome. But was anybody else? Because I was pretty fucking alone in that stuff, if you'll recall. And many of you will. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, etc., etc., etc. Let me bring in the chat real quick. I'm going to get in here. There we go. Yeah, was I not the one who said, I think I was the only person who was going, this is going to be the ticket. This is how it's going to go. Oh, yes, Rip Portland. So sad. Yeah. One of my early feathers in my cap, where I was super right in the very beginning, especially where I was like, will you guys listen to me? Will you guys understand I'm not wasting your fucking time? Unlike James Comer, who is officially wasting everyone's time. And I'm for it, because the time that he is wasting is that of a Republican-led committee. Knock yourself the fuck out. I don't care. That's why I'm a huge Comer fan right now. I'm excited for what he comes up with. He is sort of the human personification of Trump's 2 weeks from now myth. Right. Like, how Trump was like, everything's 2 weeks away? That's Comer. Comer's like a walking version of that lie. It's amazing.